And during that delay, he was asked about kind of what's been the chatter out there on the course about maybe his next team. Here's what he had to say when he spoke with CBS there on their PGA coverage.
Say that the predominant team that we hear as we're walking is Raiders. A lot of Raider fans are encouraging me. A lot of Devontae misses you comments. So we're having some fun with it. It's a great, great event for the fans to come out here, and hopefully we can get back on the course.
You see the smile on his face? He loves being wooed, man. I'm telling you. He loves it. The Raiders fans want him. They've moved from Brady to Rodgers.
The way this is acting, this is like, hey, does that look like a guy who's not going to play football next year? Does that sound like a guy who's not going to play? Like, if you weren't going to play football next year, wouldn't you say, wait, but hold on. There's no sense in I hadn't made up my mind up if I'm playing, right? Like, I think to me, just reading the tea leaves, I would say that sounds like a guy who wants to play football. And he should play football next year. He's too good. Like, he's not done. His career's not over. Now where he goes, I don't know. I mean, certainly if you've never been to Pebble, that's an incredible venue down there, and it's the Bay Area. It's south of the Bay Area, so there's a lot of Oakland Raider fans down there. I used to walk that course. I would go down there every year and hang out. I love those are the best trips. Millie and I would go down there every year and hang out and walk the course. Sometimes Belichick would play. I would walk in it, and it was incredible. When it's a nice day down there, it's like one of the greatest places to ever go. And, I was down there one time. I was walking the course with Belichick and my cell phone rings. And, of course, it's Al Davis. And he's like, do you realize that fucking Rome is burning and you're walking down there? I'm like, I didn't know Rome was burning. I had no idea Rome was burning. I'm just here. Like, I'm 2 hours away. I'll be home in a minute if you need me. Oh, fuck, Rome's burning. You got no time for this. So, can you imagine that? I was literally in the middle of the course,
Just having a nice stroll.
A nice stroll. Fucking Rome is burning. I didn't know. I don't have a hose down here with me. I can't put out that fire in Rome. But I'll tell you, there's probably good pizza. Check it out. So, I don't know. I mean, look. I think the market will heat up for Carr. I don't see. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't see the Raiders getting a day 2 draft choice for Carr. They're not going to get day 1. But 2 and a 3, I don't see that. So I think a 4 maybe. But it sounds like there's teams interested, and so that'll clear the cap. And then, like, to me, the Rodgers thing isn't are you playing, is how long do you want to play? Like, if I trade for you, am I getting 3 years out of you, or am I getting 1? And you got to kind of give me an answer, or else what am I doing?
Which team do you think is best equipped to bring him in, even if it's just for one season? Would it be the Jets? Would it be the Raiders? Like, who do you think would be best served? Even if it was Rodgers said, all right, I'm going to play 2023, and then I'm going to figure out my life after that. Like, which team is best equipped to bring that on?
Well, I think the one for Rodgers, the one he's the most comfortable with. Like he's run one offense. He had McCarthy for all those years. That's West Coast. That's day 1 West Coast install, right? So he's had that. Then LaFleur comes in, which is a combination of West Coast, but some more Kyle Shanahan influence. You didn't see much of a lot of boots because Rodgers doesn't want to turn his back to the formation on hard play action. You didn't see a lot of that. So I would suspect terminology is critical. Remember when Brett Favre went to the Jets and Brian Schottenheimer was his coach. Schottenheimer was from the digit system, which is 436. That tells the receiver to run a 4. It's the 3 route, the 6. And then the formations are different. Whereas in the West Coast, it's more of a verbiage. 20 bingo cross. All these terminology that goes to it. So So I think to me, the terminology would be what he's most comfortable with. And because when a player changes systems, it's really hard.
So then people will hear that and then probably connect the dots to the New York Jets with Nathaniel Hackett being there since the two were together in Green Bay.
Right. I mean, that would be, and then I think also, if he's going to change, he wants to go somewhere where he's got a good line. He's going to be a pro personnel director. He's going to look at his line, and then he's going to look at like I don't know what he thinks of. I mean, how many people can take credit for Rodgers' great play in Green Bay, but between LaFleur and Hackett? Like, how many can we get? I mean, is there enough meat on that bone to get everybody credit? Like, they couldn't win a playoff game up there with them. I mean, they lost 2 home playoff games up there. So, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know, whereas I would think the relationship with Devontae Adams certainly would help the Raiders if that's what he wants to do, where Adams had no problem adapting to the system. So if Adams adapts to that system, the Josh McDaniels system, then maybe, you would think Rodgers would. And one thing about the McDaniels system, they're going to do what Rodgers does well, right? They're going to give him the liberty to do it. It's going to be different. It'll be an adjustment for him, though.
And Rodgers being a West Coast guy, maybe he wants to come out here. He's not going to the Bay Area, but I mean, Vegas isn't too far from the Bay Area.
I mean, look, and it's tax-free. I mean, it's the other appeal. It's tax-free,
It's very nice.
Where you go to New York, so New York, New York's they're going to get you on all of them, right? They're going to get you. Don't think players don't think like that.
Yeah.
You got that tax burden is huge in California for players, and it's huge in New Jersey for players and New York.
Well, maybe that's why Colt Knost on the PGA broadcast was there saying Rodgers would look nice with a star on his helmet if he wants to come down to Texas and play for the Cowboys. But I digress. That's neither here nor there.
And you and Dave Ross will have to kick in for that. And our man, Goulet.
I don't know if I want to put money in for Aaron Rodgers. He's a hell of a player, but that might be asking a little much from me. Derek Carr, though, is the other side of that coin there for the Raiders. Obviously, the two have split up. Carr has been granted permission by the Raiders to speak with other teams interested in trading for him that have also agreed to compensation with Las Vegas. Now, you mentioned that you think it's going to be a day 3 pick, not quite a second or a third round pick in day number 2. There's this deadline, though, that's lingering here, the February 15th deadline for the guarantees of the contract. Do you think we see something
March
done?
3rd deadline. I thought it was March 3rd deadline. I thought it was the 3rd day of the league year.
So I believe I read a tweet. It said Carr says he will not extend the February 15th deadline for future contract guarantees. So I'm not sure if that means then if it goes towards the March 3rd thing or if it's, I'll have to get clarification on that.
Well, you can't, first of all, the league year you can't trade a player until the league year opens up.
But so they could agree to a trade, correct? But they wouldn't. Right. It wouldn't be official.
But that wouldn't. But if he goes past that 50, that's a self-imposed deadline by Carr and maybe the Raiders. I don't know. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me because the March 3rd is when his guarantees kick in.
Gotcha.
They don't kick in February. Those guarantees don't kick in until the league year begins. So you could say the second, and sometimes you don't know when the league year is going to be. So you frame it in a contract, the second day of the league year, the 3rd day of the league year. You don't know what day that is when you do the contract because they change the day of the league year. I think that's a self-imposed one. To me, I say a Saturday pick, but there may be competition. And if there's competition and he's good to go to either place, I mean, the contract's going to determine this too, right? Who's got an appetite to pay $40 million for 3 years? Because that's what he's going to get. He's going to get $120 million over the next 3 years. Who's going to pay that? I heard the Saints, Carolina, the Tampa Bay Bucks. I mean, look, you kind of have a sense, I would think that some teams would want to pay that because, look, he's got proven numbers. Yeah. And he'll make a team better. I mean, there's no doubt, he's kind of gone through it, and it doesn't mean his career ends in Las Vegas. It just means sometimes change is good for players too, right? We talked about that with coaches in an earlier block. So I could see that. I mean, but I think to me, that has to be a self-imposed deadline that they're going to agree to a deal with somebody.
So if you were the odds maker, you would set it at Carr's likely going to go to the NFC South because you mentioned the 3 teams. There were Saints, Panthers, and the Bucks. So one of those 3 might be interested. Okay.
I would the one that if I were Carr, the one I'd want to go to are the Saints because their offensive line, or I'd go to Carolina. I'd go wherever the best offensive line was. Yeah,
and the warm weather climate. We know there's all the stats about Carr and the cold.
Carolina's got good receivers. New Orleans has good receivers. They got Kamara. I would go New Orleans, Carolina, and that. Now, I mean, would he work with Frank Wright? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Pete Carmichael there, has been with Breeze, so they kind of know each other. I mean, I'm sure he could be very comfortable there. And remember, Dennis Allen, I believe Dennis Allen was with him as a coach, right?
I think they had a little bit of crossover here. Let me make sure to look it up.
Yeah, I think they did. I'm trying to remember. I think they had to.
Because, Allen, he was the head coach of the Raiders. So, 2012 to 2014. So, I believe it was Carr's rookie year was Dennis Allen's last year with the Raiders.
And he got fired in season. Didn't he get fired?
I believe so.
Yeah. So, I mean, but at least he went through the process with them, and he knows the kid. Now, they didn't play very well. That was one of the teams that really shut down the Raiders. I would say the second Chief game was not a good game for the Raiders, but that was Stidham. And that game, the Saint game, the Saints just shut down the Raiders completely. Dennis Allen had a hell of a job in that game.
Yeah, no, Dennis Allen, actually, he was fired in late September of 2014. So he was an early season kind of hot seat guy. Team gets off to a bad start once again, then he was dismissed as the head coach of the Raiders. Thanks for watching the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi. And for more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to VSiN Live and the GM Shuffle podcast with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN, wherever you get your podcasts.